Rewritten story. A fated betrayal. Liam and I grew up with an unspoken promise hanging between us. Our families, our friends, and even we ourselves believed we were destined to be together. I truly thought we were on the same page. Then one day he brought a girl to our usual spot, the old park bench under the ancient oak tree. "Skylar," he said, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "I never loved you like that. I've always seen you as a sister." The words hit me like a physical blow. He introduced her as his girlfriend, and she, in turn, with a bright smile that felt like a stab to the heart, offered to set me up with one of her friends. The story you are listening to is called "Those Years I Stopped Loving Him," and it is broadcast on the YouTube channel Listen to Stories with Binh. What they didn't know was that my world had just imploded. And when I finally truly moved on and found happiness with someone new, Liam came back. "Skylar, you know it was always supposed to be me," he raged. His voice filled with a possessiveness I'd never seen before. But by then it was too late. My feelings for him were long gone. Childhood agreement. Our families had decided our fate before we even had the chance to speak. It all started when I was a tiny fetus, no bigger than a thumbnail. Liam, a babbling toddler, was just learning to talk. My mom would joke, "No arranged marriages for my daughter." But our parents' banter quickly turned serious. "Look," Liam's mom would say, "he's agreeing," as he would giggle and babble, oblivious to the weight of their words. I, on the other hand, was too young to even have an opinion. If they had asked, I probably wouldn't have had one anyway. Being with Liam seemed perfectly fine. It was the path laid out for me. My mom often called me too gentle. When I asked if that was a good or bad thing, she'd just sigh and say I wasn't like her at all. It was a gentle way of telling me my easygoing nature might be my downfall. I genuinely believed Liam and I thought alike, a shared silent understanding. But as we entered high school, I started to realize he didn't see me the same way. He began to get annoyed whenever our families or friends teased us about our future. One evening, after our college entrance exams, both families gathered to discuss our university plans. His mom suggested we apply to the same school so we could look after each other. My mom added that I, being quiet and friendless, would be safer with him around. The jokes began to escalate until Liam's mom winked and said, "First year of college, then marriage. The new house I bought will finally be put to good use." I was so used to this talk that I barely reacted. I just kept eating, nodding politely when his mom placed food on my plate. But then Liam abruptly stood up, his chair scraping against the floor with a screech that made me jump. His face was beet red with a mixture of embarrassment and fury. "Can you all please stop?" he yelled. "I'm not going to the same school as her, and I'm definitely not going to marry her." My parents were mortified. His parents were furious. And I was just numb. He was so angry, so determined to distance himself from me. "I already have someone I like," he declared, looking at me with cold, disdainful eyes. "I never liked Skylar, and I'd appreciate it if you all would stop saying these things in front of us." Then he turned to me. "Has anyone ever asked Skylar what she wants? Has anyone asked if she's sick of all this?" 5 pairs of eyes turned to me, filled with confusion and doubt. Liam's gaze, however, was filled with a chilling finality. It felt like he was saying, "Skylar, you're a burden. Just get out of my life and stop following me." His words sliced through me. I felt a sharp, agonizing pain in my chest. The world around me started to blur, and I passed out. When I came to, I was in bed. My parents were talking in hushed tones, concerned that I had fainted because of a broken heart. A new direction. The incident changed everything. My parents never brought up the subject of our future again. Even Liam's parents were awkward around me, their friendly chatter replaced with strained silence. The comfortable closeness was gone, replaced by a deep and painful chasm. Before submitting our university applications, Liam came to see me. He seemed different, his usual cocky swagger replaced with a quiet guilt. He brought me some supplements, saying he'd heard I was underweight from studying so hard. "You really don't look well, Skylar," he said, trying to force a laugh. "The gym teacher says I'm fine," I replied, avoiding his gaze. The laughter died on his lips. He just stood there watching me intently. "I'm sorry about what I said that night," he finally mumbled. "I know," I said a little too quickly. "I forgive you." Then came the real purpose of his visit. "Let's apply to the same school," he said, a hopeful look in his eyes. I smiled. "Okay." A wave of relief washed over him. He picked up one of my books and playfully scolded me for reading useless novels. "Skylar, don't tell my mom I was skipping class, and I won't tell her about your extracurricular reading," he teased. It was a familiar game from our childhood, but now it felt hollow. Just before he left, I asked him the question that had been eating at me. "Is your girlfriend applying there too?" He hesitated, then nodded. I knew then that his apology was less about me and more about his desire to win his parents' approval for his new relationship. "Congratulations, Liam," I said. "Thanks, Skylar," he replied, a genuine look of gratitude on his face. I understood the subtext. "Thank you for stepping aside." I didn't apply to his school. I chose a university on the complete opposite side of the country, a choice that shocked him. "You're a traitor, Skylar," he shouted when he found out. "Maybe now your mom will think you're innocent," I shot back, a wry smile on my face. He looked at me, a serious, searching look. "Skylar, is it because—" "No," I interrupted, knowing what he was about to say. "The school I chose has a better program for my major. A new beginning." University life created distance between us, and our communication became sporadic. Initially, he'd text to check on me, but my short, unenthusiastic replies eventually led to silence. We only ever saw each other during holidays, where he'd affectionately ruffle my hair and comment on my weight, just like a big brother. One summer, Liam came home with his girlfriend, a girl named Mia whom he'd met in college. My parents, who were already against their relationship, openly showed their disapproval during a family dinner. I, on the other hand, just kept eating, the familiar tension in the room swirling around me. "Skylar is so much better than her," Liam's mom exclaimed, a subtle dig at Mia. Feeling the pressure, I was about to leave the room when I saw Mia in the hallway. Her eyes were glistening with tears. "I just want to thank you," she said, "for being so kind to me." Just then, Liam walked out of the room, still arguing with his mom. "Skylar is a great person," he said, "but I only see her as a sister." I looked at Mia and smiled sadly. "I only see him as a brother too." Liam walked over to us, took Mia's hand and turned to me. "Skylar, can you please tell my mom?" I felt a surge of indignation. "Auntie," I said, my voice shaking with a newfound strength, "I don't like Liam. And actually, I have a boyfriend now." The silence in the room was deafening. I was surprised to see the complex look on Liam's face. He should have been happy, but instead he looked utterly stunned. "Please don't make it difficult for him," I told his mom. "He deserves to be happy." That night, I was consumed by a fever. In a half-conscious state, I heard my parents talking. My mom was worried about me, but my dad was furious. "Who does Liam think he is? My daughter will find someone so much better." My mom sighed. "She's just like me, stubborn. She and Liam would have been miserable." I woke up the next morning feeling the weight of their words. It wasn't until I was fully recovered that Liam tried to see me again. I ignored his calls and texts, and so he came to the coffee shop where I worked. He stood by the window, a picture of nonchalant elegance. Then Mia came over, holding a half-eaten ice cream cone. Liam took a bite, then pulled her into a hug, kissing the spot on her lip where the cream had lingered. Mia saw me and waved. "I told him to ask you out, to thank you for everything," she said. "Please don't say no." I couldn't let them think I was lying about my boyfriend. My pride was on the line. At the table, Mia said, "Liam told me you don't actually have a boyfriend and that you just wanted to help us out." I forced a smile, my fragile pride crumbling. "Thank you, Skylar," Liam said, but his eyes were filled with a strange sadness. "I should introduce you to my cousin Saul," Mia said. "He's going to your university." Liam just sat there, quiet, as I watched a couple at the next table celebrate a birthday. It felt like I was an uninvited guest at my own funeral. Mia pushed me to scan her cousin's QR code. Liam didn't say a word. It was clear they both wanted me to have someone else so I wouldn't be a threat to them. I smiled and added Saul as a friend. That night, after I'd gone home, Liam called me and asked me to come downstairs. He was standing under a street lamp, a cigarette glowing in his hand. He looked at me, a sad smile on his face. "You look tired, Skylar." I knew he was just being kind, a gesture of concern he couldn't show in front of Mia. I took a step back as he reached out to touch my hair. The arm fell slowly. He looked hurt, but then he laughed. "Don't be mad at Mia," he said. "She's insecure." My heart sank. He understood Mia's intentions, but my feelings didn't matter. "You don't have to talk to him," he said, referring to the cousin. "Just delete him if you want." "It's okay," I said, forcing a brave smile. "I should find a boyfriend." He looked at me. His eyes filled with an unreadable expression. "Skylar, I'm sorry," he whispered. I shook my head, my throat closing up. A gust of wind cut through my thin clothes. I wrapped my arms around myself, but Liam came forward and tried to put his jacket around my shoulders. "Don't," I said, my voice barely audible. "Please don't give me these little kindnesses that aren't mine to keep." He didn't say anything. He just looked at me for a moment, then turned and walked away. I watched him go, finally understanding that our story was over. For the next 2 years, I avoided coming home for the holidays, and when I did my best to stay away from him. It was an unspoken agreement between us. Until one holiday, when I was sitting at home, Liam appeared in my room. He was leaning over my desk, looking at a book I was reading. "Reading trashy books again, Skylar," he teased, a familiar glint in his eye. "First, you can't pick good books, and now you can't pick a good boyfriend." I was stunned. He was acting like nothing had changed. "I'm tired, Liam," I said. "You should go." "Kicking me out?" he asked, a playful smirk on his face. "We're not the same anymore," I said, my voice firm. He seemed to finally understand the gravity of my words. He paused, then asked, "Do you really have a boyfriend?" I did, and his name was Lucas. I met him through a friend, not through Mia. But I was so tired of his games. "It's the guy you and Mia introduced to me," I lied. He stood there, silent. My lie had hit a nerve. I knew he and Mia had broken up, but I hadn't realized how sensitive he was about it. "I should thank you both," I said, my voice cold. "Skylar," he said, his face a mask of anger. "Since when did you become so defiant?" I didn't answer. Was this not what he wanted? For me to stand on my own? I couldn't figure him out. He left my room without another word, and I stood by the window, watching him get in his car and drive away. That's when I decided to truly let him go. I started dating Lucas, Mia's cousin, a kind and stable man, the opposite of Liam. My parents approved, and even Liam's parents, though they were still sad that Liam and I weren't together, were happy for me. "You have a good eye for people, Skylar," Liam's mom said to Lucas, a hint of sadness in her voice. I knew she was saying he was a good person, just not the one she had envisioned for me. I looked over at Liam, who was sitting in the corner, silent and withdrawn. He had changed too, no longer the charming boy next door, but a quiet, somber man. Later I walked out into the hallway to get some fresh air. Liam was standing there, holding a cigarette. He looked at me, his eyes never leaving mine. "I was waiting for you," he said. We stood in silence for a long time. "He's not good enough for you," he finally said. I didn't respond, thinking he was just being protective. "Skylar, why are you so quiet?" he asked, a hint of irritation in his voice. "I hear Mia is getting married," I said, just to watch his face fall. He was silent for a moment, then grabbed my arm. You always protect him, don't you? Of course, I said, pulling my arm away. He's my boyfriend. Just then Lucas walked out, his face filled with concern. You two don't seem to get along, he said. We just have different personalities, I replied, but Lucas just smiled, taking my hand and holding it tight. I'm a little jealous of your relationship, he said. It's like you two know each other so well. That night, Lucas walked me to my door. He seemed nervous. Skylar, I'm worried, he said. About my parents. Yes. They love you. No, he said. I'm worried you'll leave. He was so different from Liam. He was insecure, but in a vulnerable human way. He wasn't arrogant. He was afraid to lose me. I wrapped my arms around him, a silent promise that I was his and his alone. When I got to my room, Liam was there again. He was standing by the window, staring out into the night. I thought you weren't coming up, he said. Why are you here? Yes. Lurking, he said, a faint smile on his face. Skylar, you still can't pick good books, and now you can't pick a good boyfriend. His words were meant to hurt, but I felt nothing. I'm going to bed, I said. You should go. Are you kicking me out? He asked. His eyes filled with a new kind of defiance. You're not kicking me out. Chapter 3. An unspoken war. I stared at him, bewildered by his change in demeanor. He didn't pursue the topic, but he also refused to leave. Instead, he pulled out a drawer from my desk. Instinctively, I rushed over and slammed my hand on top of his. Liam, are you insane? I hissed, my voice filled with a sudden, uncontrollable fury. Why are you here? Go home. He seemed genuinely surprised by my outburst. He froze, then a slow smile spread across his face. Skylar, there you are, he said, the old playful light returning to his eyes. I hated the way you acted so docile around him. But there was no playfulness in me. A cold anger, fueled by an unknown source, burned in my chest. It's none of your business, I shot back. I want to be that kind of person. I want to be the kind of person he likes. He pressed his lips into a thin line, his eyes hardening. On what basis are you changing yourself for him? He said, his voice flat and challenging. His logic was so absurd it was impossible to argue with. We stood there, facing each other like two enraged bulls, neither of us willing to back down. Finally, I turned away, pushed him aside, and locked the drawer. Please go, Liam. I'm tired. He left, but the air in the room remained heavy with the unspoken words between us. It wasn't long before I heard from his mother that he had returned to the South. He was starting his own business there, and his sudden departure wasn't unusual. But a few months later, he came back to town on a business trip and asked me to dinner. Lucas, my fiancé, was too busy to join. Liam looked different. He was dressed in a sleek suit, a little more worn out, a little more brooding than I remembered. I found him standing by the window, smoking. I didn't think you'd come, he said, his voice low. Me neither, I replied, a small smile playing on my lips. We sat down, and he pulled out a chair for me. A faint scent of alcohol wafted from him. You've been drinking? I asked, my brows furrowing. He paused, then pulled off his jacket, as if the heavy scent would magically disappear with it. I guess so, he said, a touch of mockery in his tone. You're being thoughtful now, I said, a little too brightly. You know I hated the smell of alcohol. He just shrugged, his expression unreadable. I looked away, the silence between us heavy. Lucas couldn't make it, I said, trying to fill the void. He didn't reply. Don't blame him, I said. He's a good man. Can we not talk about him, Skylar? He said, his voice sharp. Why are you so hostile towards him? Yes. He's a great guy. He laughed, a harsh, humorless sound that made me flinch. I felt my face grow cold. When he and Mia were together, I never disrespected her. Why couldn't he do the same for Lucas? I'm not as fake as you, he said, the words cutting deep. I felt the familiar burn of anger. I grabbed my purse and stood up, ready to leave. But he grabbed my arm, his grip tight. "Why do you always mention someone else when you're with me?" he growled. "Mia or Lucas?" I asked, a bitter smile on my face. He didn't answer, his jaw tight. "You should have gone back to Mia if you still can't forget her," I said, the words tumbling out. "And if you're so annoyed by me, then stop contacting me. We're just normal friends. We don't have to fight every time we see each other." "Normal friends," he scoffed. "Is that what you think we are?" The injustice of it all washed over me. He had spent years telling me I was a burden. Then he left me for someone else. Now he was acting as if he was the victim. "What else are we then?" I asked, my voice rising. "Or maybe brother is a better word. Isn't that what you always called me?" He pulled me into an embrace and kissed me before I had a chance to react. I shoved him away, and the force of the shove made my hand swing, slapping him across the face. He didn't look angry. Instead, he just laughed, a cruel, mocking laugh. "Skylar, you know," he said, his voice a low whisper. "That old promise from our parents doesn't seem so bad now." I was trembling with rage and humiliation. Tears streamed down my face. He took a step towards me, his hand outstretched, but I recoiled. "How can you say that?" Choked out, my voice raw. "You were the one who said no. And now you're saying you want me." "Skylar," he pleaded. "I'm sorry. I was wrong." He tried to wipe my tears away, but I pushed him back. I had to end this once and for all. I looked him in the eye, my voice steady. "Liam, I'm getting married." He stared at me, his face pale. "Who is it?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "That guy from your university. Are you doing this to make me jealous?" "I love him," I said, the words surprising even me. He was silent for a long time. I bent down to pick up my purse, my hands shaking. "Is that so?" he finally said, his voice cold and flat. "Then congratulations." He walked out, a ghost in the wind. The door, he stopped. I looked up and saw Lucas standing there. "I came to pick up Skylar," Lucas said, his eyes on Liam. Liam smirked. "I guess Mia would never have imagined the two of you would actually end up together," he said, looking at me. "I certainly didn't." He turned to leave, but Lucas stopped him. My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't know what Lucas was going to say, or if he had heard our conversation, but he just took my hand, held it tight, and looked at Liam. "I hope you'll be there for the wedding," Lucas said. Liam looked at our intertwined hands, a strange look in his eyes. "Of course," he said, a mocking smile on his face. "As long as you two actually get married." Lucas squeezed my hand, his grip tight and reassuring. "We will," he said. He was so calm, so gentle, so unbelievably trusting. I was expecting him to be angry, but he just smiled. He even cooked me dinner when we got home, saying I needed to eat something to give me the strength to be mad. But the anger wasn't there anymore. It had been replaced by a gnawing fear. Liam's words had gotten to me. I wanted to explain everything, but Lucas just put a finger to my lips, stopping me. "There's no need to explain anything, Skylar," he said. "I trust you." "But why?" I asked, a wave of guilt washing over me. He just smiled, as if I'd asked the most foolish question in the world. "You're going to be my wife," he said, "and I have to trust my wife." My heart ached with a sudden, overwhelming emotion. I didn't feel worthy of him. All my life people had called me too gentle, too quiet, but Lucas, this amazing man, loved me for exactly who I was. He was so worried about me that he was willing to give me up. It was a love I had never experienced before, a love that made me want to cry. That October, Lucas and I got married. It should have been a joyous occasion, but Liam found a way to ruin it. On our wedding day, as Lucas and I were on our way to the venue, a car suddenly swerved in front of us and slammed on its brakes. We crashed into it. Lucas pulled me into a tight hug, shielding me. Through the windshield, I saw Liam's face. It was a mask of pure, insane rage. Lucas undid his seatbelt. his eyes cold and dark. He was ready to fight. But I couldn't let him. I held his arm, my voice shaking. "Let me handle this," I said, as if I was calming a wild beast. "Trust me. I'll make him leave." I got out of the car and walked towards him. He was standing there, his face contorted with anger. "Go away, Liam," I said, my voice steady. "If I had to choose between you and death, I would choose death." He slammed his hand on the steering wheel, his chest heaving. He wouldn't let me die. I knew that. I knew he loved me. I understood him better than he understood himself. I turned away, ready to walk back to Lucas. But he jumped out of the car and grabbed me. "You love me, Skylar," he yelled. "I know you do." I just looked at him, a cold, empty feeling in my heart. "I don't," I said. "I hate you." His chest heaved with a silent, tortured rage. He looked so pathetic, so utterly miserable. I walked away, back to Lucas, and placed my grandmother's ring on the hood of his car. It was my final act of defiance. My final goodbye. I would rather die than be with him. Liam didn't follow me. He had always been so proud, so arrogant, but now he was broken. "Skylar," he said, his voice a low, pleading whisper. "Please don't do this to me." But Lucas was already there, holding my hand. We got into the wedding car, and as it drove away, I saw Liam's reflection in the rearview mirror, getting smaller and smaller, until he was just a distant, heartbreaking memory. "Skylar," Lucas said, squeezing my hand. "He gave me your diary before we got engaged." "What?" said shocked. That was why he'd been so understanding. He had read my diary, a record of my entire youth, a chronicle of my unrequited love for Liam. The silly, foolish things I had done for him, all the tears I had cried. He must have been so heartbroken. "I'm so happy," Lucas said, a bright, genuine smile on his face. "Because even after all that, you still chose me." "Of course I did," I said, a tear rolling down my cheek. "You're the one I love. Now and forever." "You're an idiot, Lucas." He didn't argue. He just laughed, a sound so full of love and happiness that I couldn't help but laugh with him. I didn't have to tell him how happy I was, how grateful I was to have him. He already knew.